Hey guys, welcome to Sunny Vantage right here. This is actually my first day of rock work for the 2023 year. I'm doing like a college group. I guess it's just a small one. I'm the only guide. And we're just going to be out here top roping and maybe learning how to belay, or I don't really know. But we're going to do something. It's March 17th. Yeah, it's actually looking pretty good out here, huh? The sun's shining, it's not too cold. I know I have like 3 layers on, but it's really not that cold. And after skiing all season, it's gonna be a good day. It's gonna feel nice to get back on rock and pull up and try to test out those muscles. I've been in the gym a little bit this winter, but for the most part I've been skiing. Every winter I try to get 100 days of skiing, and yesterday was my 98th day, so I feel like I will reach that goal by the end of the season for sure. I have a few more weeks of ski patrol before I'm leaving first week of April to start vertical guiding again, so overall can't complain. Got a rock rescue course tomorrow. That'll be fun to just, well, I guess that won't be as fun since you won't be climbing around as much. But either way, I just wanted to make a quick talking point video just to throw something out there on YouTube again. And this is something I've gotten in a number of my comments and a number of my videos about using a third hand to rappel with a grigri. Yeah, I've gotten people saying like, remember to back up that grigri and whatnot. So I just wanted to throw this talking point out there to talk about why I don't put a third hand when I'm rappelling with a grigri, and why it's not really common in the outdoor professional world. I'm sitting on top of like a big rock here. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Here you go, 360 view. Yeah, it's just like this little rock that you can scramble up here. The scramble is roughly down that way. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a rock. I forget the name of it. There's a few climbs, and actually you can see down there on that rock is an anchor. So this is like a few single pitch climbs, but you can scramble up here. So yeah, why don't I put a third hand on when rappelling with the grigri? And then to back this one up, right, to, I guess another talking point video, a good one to talk about would be like the implications of backups while rappelling and different backups that you can use while rappelling. There's at least 3 or 4 I can think of right now. But if I'm going to rappel with the ATC, right, starting with ATC on the belay loop, no extension, no third hand, that is the baseline we'll go with. And I still like to use that rappel method if I'm doing short little rappels, mainly in a single pitch area, and I know that there's nothing I got to do with the rope on the way down. So if I am doing a single pitch rappel and I throw the rope and it's on ledges and it's tangled up in bushes and stuff, I'm probably going to use a third hand so that way I can untangle the rope. But if I throw the rope down and it's a clean throw, the rope just goes straight down and all I have to do is clip in and zip to the bottom, then I oftentimes will not use a third hand or an extension. I'll just clip in and zip down. And usually that is me being quick and efficient. Maybe I'm cleaning a few anchors while single pitch guiding, and I just want to like get the group moving and zip down real fast. And then it's another tool, right? Moving into multi-pitch context, I pretty much always have an extension and a third hand of some sort when I'm doing multiple rappels in a row down a multi-pitch climb. And that's because I need something to clip into the anchor with, and I want to use rappel backup because I'm always the first person to go down, and I want to put that backup on my belay loop as opposed to my leg loop because it gives me a lot more options and it's a lot more of a foolproof system, and it's better practice. And so when we're using a grigri, I never really extend my grigri. I don't do a grigri extension rappel. I can think of a few times where it may be useful, like in a more guiding context, but not so much a recreational context. But if I'm rappelling with the grigri, it's generally, 90% of the time it's going to be on my belay loop. So that means I have to put the backup on my leg loop. And You know, in the end, there's nothing really wrong with doing that. If it makes you feel more comfortable, then go for it. But just know that when we call it a backup, it's not a backup in case your rappel device explodes off of you, right? Like if I'm rappelling with an extended rappel and that backup's on my belay loop and my ATC explodes, maybe it will be able to catch my weight, but generally I'm tying friction hitches that have less friction, just enough to hold the brake strands in line with the ATC and give enough friction to keep me from sliding down the rope. But it's not really a huge amount to hold my body weight. If you wanted to use something like a prusik hitch, then that is enough to hold your body weight. So if your belay device explodes on you, then that could actually hold you. But your belay device isn't going to explode. So it's not actually backing up the ATC in case that fails. The whole point of a rappel backup is to keep those brake strands in line and allow you to have a bit more security if you take your hands off the rope. That's the whole point. So it's not, I guess a backup may be a bit of a misnomer. Like a third hand, I like saying third hand a lot more. Going back to the grigri, if I'm rappelling with the grigri, it's going to be on my belay loop, which means my third hand will be on my leg loop. If the grigri fails, then that third hand isn't really going to do too much. So it's not really much of a backup in the first place. And then also, if you think about rappelling with an ATC without a backup, if you let go with your hands, the rope's just going to zip through and then you're going to hit the ground, right? A grigri kind of has that third hand backup built into it. If you let go with your hands, it's just going to pinch the rope and you're hanging on the rope. So if you want to go hands-free with the grigri, it's recommended that you rely fully on that camming unit and then tie a catastrophe knot in the brake strand just in case that camming unit fails. Because if the camming unit fails, then the knot will bunch up against the grigri and then you're all good. ATCs, when you have the ATC or whatever device, and then your third hand on your belay loop, and then you go hands-free for a large amount of time, it's recommended to tie a cat knot. And the idea there is if the third hand starts to slip, the catastrophe knot underneath the third hand on your brake strands will butt up against the third hand, and then that should stop you right away. I mean, if the material of the third hand snaps on you, then the knot's going to slide all the way up into the ATC, and then that's for sure going to stop you. But if you're worried about your third hand actually breaking on you, you shouldn't be using that material. You can think about it as a grigri is a third hand and an ATC put together, and then an ATC is you need that third hand. And that's why I don't back up my grigri. If I tie a third hand on, that's getting a little too overly redundant for the material that I'm using. Now, I don't think that really transfers to other belay devices on the market, specifically ones that rely on geometry to cam on the rope. Something like the Black Diamond Pilot or the Idelrid Megajoule. Megajoule is a little bit better than the Pilot in my eyes. And this all, of course, depends on the rope you're using. But what I prefer, or I feel like those will give you a sense of safety more than actual safety. I've seen plenty of ropes just slowly eke their way out when they're on the Pilot or the Megajoule. You really have to be careful with your rope selection, and you have to be careful with your terrain choice. So vertical hanging rappel, it's not too bad to use a grigri for that. It's pretty bad to use a Megajoule on a vertical hanging rappel in its auto lock or brake assist mode. That's something where I would actually just flip it around and use the passive mode with a third hand in order to have a smoother rappel. People like to put it around on the assisted braking side and then they thump their way down because it feels safer when you really have to work to make that thing fall through the rope or pass through the rope, but it's just giving you a myth of safety versus actually doing anything other than making you bounce a whole lot. So it also seems like it's a little bit more difficult to control the lowering process than with something like a grigri, at least without a lot of practice and a lot of like deltoid strength to hold that out. And you know, depending on your rope, depending on your terrain, if you're rappelling down slabs, it's going to be a lot easier. Depending on your rope diameter, it'll be easier or harder or more or less secure. So I just did a huge tangent right there, but that's the point of a talking point video, right? So in the bottom line, those are my reasons why I don't use a third hand when rappelling with the grigri. And really, you won't see any other outdoor professional doing it that much unless they have a specific reason for it. So their go-to will be rappelling with the grigri on their own. It's essentially the same thing as when you lower your sport climber. On a single pitch climb, if you're belaying a sport climber, you don't use a third hand to lower them with the grigri. It's the same deal as lowering yourself. That's another talking point just to get you guys thinking. I'm sure this isn't going to change anyone's mind or anything, but these are the reasons why I do what I do after 20 years of climbing. Yeah, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Here it is. A little scramble up here. It's a good place to actually practice alpine rock skills because yeah, you can like build an anchor there and do short pitch up here. So, but yeah, it's just like this little rock, some sort of crag name. Vantage.